Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Exploring the Bible with Dave. Today I'm going to start on chapter 7, but before I begin, I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos because I would really like to just educate people on those who haven't read the Bible or whatnot, or who are always curious on reading it and didn't know where to start. Maybe these videos could help those people out, or those who are just curious at all about Christian religion and don't know where to start, I don't know. Let's have some fun with this. So chapter 7, Jesus and his brothers. After this, Jesus traveled around Galilee. He wanted to stay out of Judea where the Jewish leaders were plotting his death. But soon it was time for the Jewish festival of shelters, and Jesus' brothers said to him, "Leave here and go to Judea, where your followers can see your miracles. You can't become famous if you hide like this. If you can do some such wonderful things, show yourself to the world, for even his brothers didn't believe in him." Jesus replied, "Now is not the right time for me to go, but you can go any time. The world can't hate you, but it does hate me because I accuse it of doing evil. You go on, I'm not going to this festival because my time has not yet come." After saying these things, Jesus remained in Galilee. Jesus teaches opening at the temple. But after his brothers left for the festival, Jesus also went, though secretly, staying out of public view. The Jewish leaders tried to find him at the festival and kept asking if anyone had seen him. There was a lot of grumbling about him among the crowds. Some argued he's a good man, but others said he's nothing but a fraud who deceives the people. But no one had the courage to speak favorably about him in public, for they were afraid of getting into trouble with the Jewish leaders. Then, midway through the festival, Jesus went up to the temple and began to teach. The people were surprised when they heard him. "How does he know so much when he hasn't been trained?" they asked. So Jesus told them, "My message is not my own. It comes from God who sent me. Anyone who wants to do the will of God will know whether my teaching is from good or is merely my own. Those who speak for themselves want glory only for themselves, but a person who seeks to honor the one who sent him speaks truth, not lies. Moses gave you the law, but none of you obeys it. In fact, you are trying to kill me." The crowd replied, "You're demon-possessed. Who's trying to kill you?" Jesus replied, "I did one miracle on the Sabbath, and you were amazed. But you work on the Sabbath too. When you obey Moses' law of circumcision, actually, this tradition of circumcision began with the patriarchs long before the law of Moses. For if the correct time for circumcising your son falls on the Sabbath, you go ahead and do it, so as not to break the law of Moses. So why should you be angry with me for healing a man on the Sabbath? Look beneath the surface so you can judge correctly. Is Jesus the Messiah?" Some of the people who lived in Jerusalem started to ask each other, "Isn't this the man they are trying to kill? But here he is speaking to the public, and they say nothing to him. Could our leaders possibly believe that he is the Messiah? But how could he be? For we know where this man comes from. When the Messiah comes, he will simply appear. No one will know where he comes from." While Jesus was teaching in the temple, he called out, "Yes, you know me, and you know where I come from. But I'm not here on my own. The one who sent me is true, and you don't know him. But I know him because I come from him, and he sent me to you." Then the leaders tried to arrest him, but no one laid a hand on him because his time had not yet come. Many among the crowds at the temple believed in him. After all, they said, "Would you expect this Messiah to do more miraculous signs than this man has done?" When the Pharisees heard that the crowds were whispering such things, they and the leading priests sent temple guards to arrest Jesus. But Jesus told them, "I will be with you only a little longer. Then I will return to the one who sent me. You will search for me, but not find me, and you cannot go where I am going." The Jewish leaders were puzzled by this statement. "Where is he planning to go?" they asked. "Is he thinking of leaving the country and going to the Jews in other lands? Maybe he will even teach the Greeks. What does he mean when he says, 'You will search for me but not find me, and you cannot go where I am going'?" Jesus promises living water. On the last day of the climax of the festival, Jesus stood and shouted to the crowds, "Anyone who is thirsty may come to me. Anyone who believes in me may come and drink, for the scriptures declare, rivers of living water will flow from this heart." When he said living water, he was speaking of the Spirit, who would be given to everyone believing in him. But the Spirit had not yet been given, because Jesus had not yet entered into his glory. Division and unbelief. When the crowds heard him say this, some of them declared, "Surely this man is the prophet we've been expecting." Others said, "He is the Messiah." Still others said, "But he can't be. Will the Messiah come from Galilee?" For the scriptures clearly state that the Messiah will be born of the royal line of David in Bethlehem, the village where King David was born. So the crowd was divided about him. Some even wanted him arrested, but no one laid a hand on him. When the temple guards returned without having arrested Jesus, the leading priests and Pharisees demanded, "Why didn't you bring him in? We have never heard anyone speak like this," the guards responded. "Have you been led astray too?" The Pharisees mocked. "Is there a single one of us rulers or Pharisees who believes in him? This foolish crowd follows him, but they are ignorant of the law. God's curse is on them." Then Nicodemus, the leader who had met with Jesus earlier, spoke up. "Is it legal to convict a man before he is even given a hearing?" he asked. They replied, "Are you from Galilee too? Search the scriptures and see for yourself. No prophet ever comes from Galilee." The most ancient Greek manuscripts do not include John 3:53 to 8:11. Then they met, meeting broke up, and everybody went home. That was actually in here, by the way, in italic font, so you know it's like a big deal. Actually, I really like this because, they're calling him like, he can't be from this, he can't be this, because he's from Galilee. Like, just the audacity of it all. And, he's talking about living water, like the other last video I did. I knew he was about the Spirit. Like, oh, excuse me. I knew it was the Spirit. Like, that's what it means, right? Because it lives and flows through you. But I actually think it's quite funny because now the guards laid a hand on him, and everybody was like, the religious leaders were like, "Well, why aren't you arresting him?" And it's like, well, nobody spoke like this before, so maybe there is some truth to this, to his claims. I actually always find that interesting. Chapter 8, a woman caught in adultery. Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. "Teacher," they said to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say?" They were trying to trap him into something, saying that they could use against him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? "No, Lord," she said. And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." Jesus, the light of the world. Jesus spoke to the people once more and said, "I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness, because you will have the light that leads to life." The Pharisees replied, "You are making those claims about yourself. Such testimony is not valid." Jesus told them, "These claims are not valid, even though I make them about myself. For I know where I came from and where I am going. But you don't know this about me. You judge me by human standards, but I do not judge anyone. And if I did, my judgment would be correct in every aspect, because I am not alone. The Father who sent me is with me. Your own law says that if two people agree about something, their witness is accepted as fact. I am one witness, and my Father sent me is the other. Where is your Father?" they asked. Jesus answered, "Since you don't know who I am, you don't know who my Father is. If you knew me, you would also know my Father." Jesus made these statements while he was teaching in the section of the temple known as the treasury, but he was not arrested, because this time had not yet come. The unbelieving people warned. Later Jesus said to them again, "I am going away. You will search for me, but will die in your sin. You cannot come where I am going." The people asked if he planned on committing suicide. "What does he mean, you can't come where I'm going?" Jesus continued, You are from below. I am from above. You belong to this world. I do not. This is why I said that you will die in your sins, for unless you believe that I am, or who I claim to be, you will die in your sins." "Who are you?" they demanded. Jesus replied, "The one I am always claimed to be. I have much to say about you and much to condemn, but I won't, for I say only what I have heard from the one who sent me, and he is completely truthful." But they still didn't understand that he was talking about his Father. So Jesus said, when you have lifted up the Son of Man on the cross, then you will understand that I am he. I do nothing on my own, but I say only what the Father taught me. And the one who sent me is with you. He has not deserted me, for I always do what pleases him. Then many who heard him say these things believed in him. Jesus and Abraham. Jesus said to the people who believed in him, "You are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." "But we are descendants of Abraham," they said. "We have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean you will be set free?" Jesus replied, "I tell you the truth. Everyone who sins is a slave of sin. A slave is not a permanent member of the family, but a son is a part of the family forever. So if the Son sets you free, you are truly free. Yes, I realize that you are descendants of Abraham, and yet some of you are trying to kill me because there's no room in your hearts for my message. I am telling you what I saw when I was with my father, but you are following the advice of your father. Our father is Abraham." They declared, "No," Jesus replied, "for if you were really the children of Abraham, you would follow his example. Instead, you are trying to kill me, because I told you the truth which I heard from God. Abraham never did such a thing. No, you are imitating your real father." They replied, "We aren't legitimate children. God himself is our true father." Jesus told them, "If God were your father, you would love me, because I have come to you from God. I am not here on my own, but he sent me. Why can't you understand what I am saying? It's because you can't even hear me. For you are the children of your father and the devil, and you love to do the evil things he does. He was a murderer. From the beginning, he has always hated the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, it is consistent with his character, for he is a liar and the Father lies. So when I tell the truth, you just naturally don't believe me. Which of you can truthfully accuse me of sin? And since I am telling you the truth, why don't you believe me? Anyone who belongs to God listens gladly to the words of God. But you don't listen because you don't belong to God." The people retorted, "You Samaritan devil, didn't we say all along that you were possessed by a demon?" "No," Jesus said, "I have no demon in me, for I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. And though I have no wish to glorify myself, to God is going to glorify me. He is the true judge. I tell you the truth, anyone who obeys my teachings will never die." The people said, "Now we know you are possessed by a demon. Even Abraham and the prophets died, but you say anyone who obeys my teaching will never die. Are you greater than our father Abraham? He died, so did the prophets. Who do you think you are?" Jesus answered, "If I want glory for myself, it doesn't count. But it is my Father who will glorify me. You say he is our God, but you don't even know him. I know him. If I said otherwise, I would be as great a liar as you. But I do know him and obey him. Your father Abraham rejoiced as he looked forward to my coming. He saw it and was glad." The people said, "You aren't even 50 years old. How can you say you have seen Abraham?" Jesus answered, "I tell you the truth, before Abraham was even born, I am." At that point, they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus was hidden from them and left the temple. Man, that's pretty intense. Like, he's just telling them, some people just couldn't handle it, I guess. Back then, you think a lot of people would be, like, probably freaking out and stuff like that. It's actually quite funny because he's trying to tell them, and they're just not listening. And it comes to that point. Like, there was that debate. Somebody said this, and it actually works quite well. To the super religious, you cannot have a civil conversation with them because they will not listen to you no matter what you say to the conversation. Like, if you were to tell, like, a devout Christian that that hell was just a creation by the Catholic Church to keep people in line, and that whatnot, right? Because that one bishop or whatever said that. But all these people will believe in it hardcore. But I don't believe the Jews have a hell, or Islam has a hell in their teachings. I think it's only Catholicism and maybe Christianity, some branches of Christianity. But you can only go and have a conversation with somebody for so long until they just completely shut down, and that's what these people are doing. And the second, like, he pretty much talked to them as much as he could, they picked up rocks and threw it, tried to throw them at him. It's just absurd. You would think these people who are like, oh, Abraham's our father, and this guy's like, and then Jesus comes along and he does all these miracles, and he walks on water and he heals the sick and crippled and turns, feeds 5,000 people with like 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. You think they would be more understanding, but then again, though, who's putting all this negativity and these distrustful thoughts in them? Is it the religious leaders, or is it the devil, or is it just evil intentions all around, or is it people not wanting to conform to new ideas? And that's why when I read this stuff, I'm seeing it. It's the old versus the new, and the old ways always want to get rid of the new ways of doing it because so many people have already conformed. So you could always look at it that way, like different generation wise or different belief wise. No working on the Sabbath, but Jesus called them out and said, like, you guys work on the Sabbath too, with circumcisions and stuff like that and prayers and whatnot. Because technically, I would assume praying is working, right? Because you're doing something. You planned out to do something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So technically, isn't that work? That's the way I look at it. Like I said before, these are all my opinions. You may agree with them and you may not agree with them. That's great. But I would love to have a civil conversation with you and discuss this because I think this stuff's worth discussing. I think that would be really, really great. So, with that being said, I'm going to continue on to chapter 9. Jesus heals a man born blind. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. Rabbi, his disciples asked him, why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sins or his parents' sins? It was not because of his sins or his parents' sins, Jesus answered. This happened so the power of God could be seen in him. We must quickly carry out the tasks assigned by us by the one who sent us. The night is coming, and then no one can work. But while I am here in the world, I am the light of the world. Then he spit on the ground, made mud with his saliva, and spread the mud over the blind man's eyes. He told him, go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam, means sent. That's a little definition they have here. So the man went and washed and came back seeing. His neighbors and others who knew him as a blind beggar asked each other, isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? Some said he was, and others said, no, he just looks like him. But the beggar kept saying, yes, I am the same one. They asked, who healed you? What happened? He told them, the man they called Jesus made mud and spread it over my eyes and told me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash yourself. So I went and washed, and now I could see. Where is he now? They asked. I don't know, he replied. Then they took the man who had been blind to the Pharisees because it was on the Sabbath that Jesus had made the mud and healed him. The Pharisees asked the man all about it. So he told them, he put the mud over my eyes, and when I washed it away, I could see. Some of the Pharisees said, this man Jesus is not from God, for he's working on the Sabbath. Others said, but how could an ordinary sinner do such miraculous things? So there was a deep division of opinion among them. Then the Pharisees again questioned the man who had been blind and demanded, what's your opinion about this man who healed you? The man replied, I think he must be a prophet. The Jewish leaders still refused to believe the man had been blind and could now see. So they called in his parents. They asked him, is this your son? Was he born blind? And if so, how could he now see? His parents replied, we know this is our son and he was born blind, but we don't know how he could see or who healed him. Ask him. He is old enough to speak for himself. His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders, who had announced that anyone saying Jesus was the Messiah would be expelled from the synagogue. That's why they said, he is old enough, ask him. So for the second time they called in the man who had been blind and told him, God should get the glory for us, because we know this man Jesus is a sinner. I don't know whether he is a sinner, the man replied, but I know this, I was blind and now I can see. But what did he do? They asked. How did he heal you? Look, the man exclaimed, I told you once, didn't listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become like his disciples too? That's actually quite funny. Then they cursed him and said, you are his disciple, but we are disciples of Moses. We know God spoke to Moses, but we don't even know where this man comes from. Why, that's very strange, the man replied. He healed my eyes, and yet you don't know where he comes from? We know that God doesn't listen to sinners, but he is ready to hear those who worship him and do his will. Ever since the world began, no one has been able to open the eyes of someone born blind. It was the man we're not from God. If this man were not from God, he couldn't have done it. You were born a total sinner, they answered. Are you trying to teach us? And they threw him out of the synagogue. Now, before I continue, you gotta love the amount of fear people had over these religious leaders. Now, I wasn't there, so I can't tell you if they were really all bad. I'm assuming maybe there were a couple that were skeptical and a couple that were good, and the other ones are just like meh. You know, I don't understand that, but you gotta love how like the parents are like so afraid they won't defend their son. He could speak for himself. They're not gonna be like they can't take sides because they're afraid. And this kid spoke up and he said like, yeah, totally. I was blind and now I could see. And he gave a little bit of a couple smart ass answers there, and I kind of like that because they were just. It was justified because they kept asking and asking, hoping he would change the story like how the police do it. And you knew that's what they were hoping for. And he never did. And they called him out on it. And then they threw him out of the synagogue. If I was that kid, I'd take that as a blessing. Why would you want to be a part of something that scares you, that uses scare tactics and fear as a weapon to keep you in line? Like, no wonder God sent Jesus to earth. Like, God was probably just like, and no offense, everybody, this is just my opinion. God was probably like, no, this stuff's got to change because you can't use fear as a weapon to spread what I created. Like I gave these laws, and you're using scare tactics to keep people in line. Because I always thought, this is just me, God gave everybody free will, and this was going against free will because everybody had a choice. You could do whatever you want. And this was going against God's divine plan. That's all I'm saying. It's my opinion. Please don't take it. Don't take it to heart, because everybody's allowed to their own opinion. And this kid just put them in their place, and they threw them out of the synagogue. I'd be like, cool, sweet. I get to work on the Sabbath, and move away to a place that doesn't condone, working on the Sabbath. Because let's face it, like even Jesus was saying that like you can work on the Sabbath, you can work every day. It's how you do it is what's important. Like you don't have to go to church. You don't have temple, I should say. You don't have to go to temple. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. You could do it your own way. You don't have to follow all these rules, and that's what I like. But we're on the last section here, spiritual blindness. When Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man and asked, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The man answered, "Who is he, sir? I want to believe in him." "You have seen him," Jesus said, "and he is speaking to you." "Yes, Lord, I believe," the man said, and he worshipped Jesus. Then Jesus told him, "I entered this world to render judgment, to give sight to the blind, and to show those who think they see that they are blind." Some Pharisees who were standing nearby heard him and said, "Are you saying we're blind? And if you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty," Jesus replied. "But you remain guilty because you claim you could see." And that is an amazing end to chapter 9. And I understand a lot of it. I could relate to a lot of that, a lot what just happened there, what I read. And I know a lot of you can too. And that's the thing, is that it's so relatable, and it's actually quite enjoyable to see that the kid got his just reward. A kid that was born blind can finally see. His parents pretty much were struck with fear, and religion shouldn't be about fear. This is just my opinion again, like I said for the umpteenth time in this series, but you shouldn't have to live in fear. Once you live in fear, then religion can become a prison, and those in religious leaders' positions will abuse you. They will tax. They would want your money. They'd want everything you had, because they know you're afraid. You're afraid of the outcome, and this is why you see mega churches. They keep. In their sermon, they always say, they always talk about God. I've noticed this. They always talk about God. They always talk about Jesus. They always talk about the devil, and that they need money to combat the devil. And it's really absurd when you think about it. Like, it is horrifically absurd. And when you really get to the nitty-gritty of it, it's everything that's against what I've just read. You shouldn't have to be living in fear of the church or your religion, or those preaching the religion. You shouldn't be afraid of those people, right? Jesus just flipping proved. Sorry, I was about to swear. I caught myself. But you watch, you read that, like you listen to what I just read, and pretty much Jesus just went about it and just said it. So it is what it is, right? And so with that being said, I'm going to leave you guys alone today. So sorry, I almost swore there. I almost released a four-letter word. Uh, but anyways, I want to apologize for that, you guys. I didn't mean to. That's how intense and how into it I was getting. I'm getting into it. So I want to thank you guys so much again today. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'm just trying to spread the word of the gospel to those who are just like me. They want answers. They might not want to belong to any church or any faith group, but they just want to learn about the Bible. Because that's what it is, right? Like, I don't even know if I'm going to get baptized because, in all honesty, you don't really need to get baptized, I don't think. Because even Jesus said you didn't really need to get baptized in Luke. So, with that being said, I know I could be wrong. It could be in one of the other Gospels. So, if I was wrong, please tell me. I would love to know if I was wrong. And because, like, I love it when you guys comment and, we can have a conversation. I love it because, it brings out the human in everybody. The understanding, the those who don't know, like me, I don't know 99% of the stuff here. Like these are just my opinions, but I know there's a lot of people out there who comment and they give me the justification, the breakdown of everything, and it's just like boom, 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 and then I read those comments, I'm like, I understand that now, I get it. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening, you guys, and watching this video. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow.